Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these episodes, I'll bring you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and leadership. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X Network, the Healthcare Now Radio Network, and our newest broadcast partner, the Health Podcast Network. For today, my 356th show, we have a very special episode, not only for its content, but also I'm inviting back a very good friend onto the broadcast. But before we get there, I've spent many months now focusing this show and most of my conversations on AI. And I feel compelled to host this episode to articulate a simple framework that anyone can follow to engage AI in their daily routine. I'm primarily going to focus on the business use cases, but the principles that I'll share certainly transcend to personal in all aspects of optimizing AI. For this episode, AI, a Foundation for Everyone, Part 2. However, before we dive in, I want to welcome back my good friend, Jake Reid, to the show. Jake has been on my team for a little over 3 years now and has been a significant component in how I've learned and built my world around AI and certainly incorporating AI into almost everything that I do. From my personal development to the radio show and certainly now as a trusted colleague in our growth performance company. Welcome back to the show, Jake.
Thanks, Justin. It's an honor to be back. And, over the past 3 years, it's been incredible to work alongside you, not only with the show, but with growth performance, where we are really helping our clients think through and put AI into practice. And I'm excited to continue that conversation with you today.
Absolutely, my friend. And working on this playbook, for the past several months, mainly to prepare for radio shows and also some conference panels that are coming up. But more importantly, as you mentioned, ensuring our business partners and growth performance clients deploy the most optimized AI strategies from the start. And for everyone, it's never too late to start, align, or realign your AI strategy, as this is not a short-term trend or fade, as most of us hopefully know. AI will transform every aspect of our business and our personal lives. Jake, and obviously before we dive in, share some of your thoughts there, because you actually taught me a lot about this, of how to incorporate AI, not only in the business life, but also into my personal world. And I absolutely love it. So share some thoughts there.
Right. Absolutely. What excites me the most is what we're seeing and how we're seeing AI move from being an experiment to being something that's woven into our everyday lives and our everyday workflows. For our clients, that means real opportunities to cut out inefficiencies and free up staff time and actually improve the patient and customer experience in measurable ways.
Yep, absolutely. And as I mentioned on our previous show, I was even inspired recently to go back to school. To ensure that I have the best long-term foundation for how AI will transform every aspect of my life over the next decade and much longer, I'm sure. As I mentioned, I start Stanford Graduate School of Business this month with a concentration in digital transformation and AI, and I could not be more excited. So, important to set the mission, set the goal. You'll hear this throughout the day. You can start small, but begin really framing AI. It's more than tech. It's creating a sustainable, for our world, a sustainable healthcare system. And what I've been working on, for, 25 years, 30 years now, everything I do personally and professionally is rooted in creating a more sustainable healthcare system here in America, but also globally. I've traveled a lot, studied other healthcare systems to see what best practices we can export, but also what best practices we can import here back into the US and what we do. It's guided a lot of my policy work, the show, and even, how our clients deploy AI in the best way and how some of my individual companies, will deploy AI in the future. But here's my promise to you for certainly taking the time to listen today is I'm going to help by offering a practical, hype-free 10-point, 10-principle playbook for starting, scaling, and sustaining AI. I'm going to use this show as my platform today to begin this journey, but certainly in several conference panels that I have coming up and speaking engagements, I'm going to continue to share these principles, but then also get my peers to weigh in, see what they think, see how they're deploying AI, see where they started, see how they're scaling, and certainly would love anybody else's feedback. I always share my contact information at the end of this show, but Justin at justinbarnes.com. Feel free to send me any thoughts that you have. And what best practices that you're achieving in the industry, what you want to share. We all can learn together. And Jake and I will always add all the meaningful content to either our thought leadership, onto our radio shows, or into our individual principles as we continue to grow. But let's dive back into our playbook principles. We covered the first 5 on the show last week. But now kind of diving into our 6th principle, scaling AI. So there are really 3 pillars: strategy, infrastructure, and data integrity. So for strategy, start with a business or clinical problem that you're trying to solve, not necessarily the tool. So, and again, this is all applicable to your personal lives, but I'm going to focus mainly, my show is on our business lives, and I focus obviously a lot in hospitals, health systems, and medical practices. So the clinical side is really near and dear to my heart. But again, start with the problem that you're trying to solve. For example, scaling is about how many pilots you run. It's more about how many workflows you can trust AI to handle reliably. So I know, Jake, you've been working a little bit also alongside me here. So what's the great use cases that you've come across that would be applicable to my audience today?
Yeah, so the first thing that kind of comes top of mind is with prior authorization, and it's really an early scaling success story. Large language models can now wade through dozens of pages of clinical notes, labs, and results far faster than humans, and it can cut approval times drastically.
Absolutely. And so, he brought up large language models, LLMs, then obviously you're going to hear about SLMs, small language models. And so, most of us will be deploying large language models. And we'll probably do a show on the difference between SLMs and LLMs, but just so we hear these acronyms to know what they stand for. So that was for specifically the strategy side. Now, for the infrastructure side, infrastructure enables performance, security, and scale. Scale is critically important to AI. Where you're going today, where you're going tomorrow, and certainly into the future, whatever you're building has got to have the openness and the interoperability for long-term innovation stability. So, do as well if this small, here's something that we say: if the small pilot works, what will break when we scale it? Anticipating these ripple effects is often a missing step, and people that they really don't take that important component into question early on. So we ask internally, where we, in our worlds, but also many of my peers, really think about, if this small pilot will work, what's going to break when we scale? The next piece is data integrity, which too many people also don't think about from day one. We need reliably sourced, validated, and or peer-reviewed data sources. Without clean, trustworthy data, the outputs just won't be reliable. And many of us were setting up databases 20, 30 years ago. The old adage, garbage in, garbage out. So really from day one, when you're setting up your strategy, and you'll hear more about this later on when we talk about, pouring that right foundation from day one, is when you pull from sources, again, make sure they're reliably sourced, validated, or peer-reviewed. Certainly in healthcare, that's really, really important. But you want to have a clean, trustworthy data source or data inputs. And you're going to have dozens and dozens, if not thousands of inputs over time. But again, track them down, trust them. There's a lot of searches out there I've been doing even recently that are not validated. Just because people post things online, that does not mean they're true. And you certainly don't want them as part of your AI database, because your AI, you want to be able to trust it and trust your LLM that you're building to have the very best data. So again, garbage in, garbage out. So really protect that data at all costs, because that's the value of your AI moving forward. And again, a lot of us, our companies are everything. We're building our companies for, several years, dozens of years, or longer than that. And AI is a big component to everything that we're going to do. So again, make sure you have those reliable inputs. That's probably the most essential foundation outside of understanding how you can scale your AI, but making sure that data sources are perfected at all costs, and change them. If they're not perfected, pull them and then cleanse that data, but make sure the data is on point and accurate. For the 7th principle, and this is more towards healthcare. I talk to large audiences outside of healthcare, but for the most part, this show is focused primarily on healthcare. It's personalization in healthcare. Healthcare is inherently personal. Personalization must reflect that. So there's, AI is the most incredible, invisible, quote unquote, invisible technology. Patients can experience better outcomes, better journeys, smoother journeys with fewer errors. But again, that will come from the AI working in the background. So the best personalization is invisible. Patients don't notice AI. They just notice fewer missed appointments, maybe better instructions, better workflows or communication with their providers, maybe better mapping to get to their facility or to their healthcare organization. So all of that really, this will continue to evolve. And certainly understanding how AI can play those journeys. And we'll talk about that also as the show continues on, and certainly in future shows. But AI continues to evolve. I do predict it'll play a more proactive role in areas like predictive analytics for chronic care management, real-time patient monitoring, at-home care models, and as I mentioned, workflow automation. And again, that's all near and dear to my heart. I've been working in this specific space for almost 20 years now, and certainly chronic care management for over 13 years, I think, on Capitol Hill. So getting these programs created and out the door and optimizing the industry. So very excited about the place and the role that AI will play within that. But Jake, I know you've done some great studying here too. Let's hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah, to your point of the predictive analysis, one of our friends, Tony Nunes from AMD, who we mentioned on the last show,
Yep.
also mentioned an example of how now pathologists are often overwhelmed with image review by the volume.
Yeah.
And by applying AI to pre-read digital pathology slides, the system can now flag the most suspicious cases first, speeding up the review. And this acted as a form of personalization for the clinician's workflow itself. And instead of every case being treated the same, the AI prioritized what mattered the most. And the downstream effect was a faster diagnosis for patients and a more efficient use of clinical expertise.
Yeah, excellent point. And Tony's been talking about that for a long time, and just how what we've seen certainly in radiology, that probably has one of the best use cases for AI in the early days, and even we've mentioned John Halamka a couple of times. I know we've got him even coming up in the show. But just how looking for even false positives, where AI can actually look well, sometimes it creates false positives, but also it can look for false positives. So how AI, you got to really understand how it can work for you, and certainly digital pathology, radiology, AI has been applied significantly in that vertical, and it will continue to be. And as you mentioned, acting as a form of personalization in the clinician's workflow, significant. So great points. For the eighth principle, helpful AI at the bedside. And again, I mentioned, John, this is where John's one of his most recent examples, and we love this. He's been on the show. John Halamka from Mayo Clinic has been on the show several times over the past couple of months. And he tells this great story about how ambient listening in the background in the AI was recording what the patient said, everything the patient said during the visit. And the doctor actually had a stethoscope on, and he missed the details, some of the details that the patient was describing about their symptoms. But the AI caught it. The recording, the ambient listening caught it. And so when they actually reviewed it, the doctor did not have it in their notes, but the ambient listening came in, and then the patient said, yes, I did mention that, and it was a very good point. So it makes our doctors better. And I think there's even some other points that have been brought up over the last couple of weeks and months about how if doctors and care providers are not deploying AI in these settings, could actually, cause problems around, I don't want to go as far as the legal problems, but you've got to, these technology innovations are going to be deployed. I think keeping up with what other doctors are doing, trying to be on the front side, the vanguard side of healthcare, where it can protect you. Could it be seen as an issue if you're not deploying AI? Possibly, because again, people will be for legal protections. It can actually protect you because it's going to catch things that you may not be able to catch. It'll make you a better doctor in a lot of cases. And in most cases that we're seeing, it's going to make you a much better doctor, much better clinician in general. And so just look at that. I don't want to, I don't want to repeat some of the things that I've heard out there, but they're very positive towards using AI. The legal protections that will come across and come around from using AI, I think it's really important. So just think about that. Certainly, as you're looking for the right use case in your clinical setting, or in your administrative setting, in your setting in general, in healthcare, or how you want to use it personally. An example: documentation consumes 25% of a clinician's workday, and how a large language model or an LLM powered by ambient listening can actually help reclaim a lot of time. There's a recent Wall Street Journal that even shared publicly here quite a bit lately, is how it noted ambient AI scribes can cut documentation time from 90 minutes to under 30 minutes daily. So that really improves not only the accuracy, but also patient interacting and lessening the burnout for the care providers, which is a significant issue. I think it was the number one issue in healthcare over the last couple of years is care provider burnout. So where this, if you can drop the scribing time down by, 66%, that's significant. So not only helping with burnout, but also giving, clinicians time back by also improving the patient experience, and really also restoring, what's exciting is restoring that clinician-patient connection that's been lost in the EHR era. EHRs are really important, to my background. I helped start one of them, almost 20 years ago. So I know the industry very well. I love the EHR industry, but this is an innovation that can actually make EHRs much better, not just ambient listening, but also AI in general. How can you wrap AI around your EHR or integrate it into your EHR and all the benefits that come with it? And again, we're just tipping the iceberg on how it's going to help us on the workflows and items like that. But really sit back and understand, how this can make a difference in your care strategy, scaling your care strategy, maybe create a more efficient ecosystem for your providers, making a better ecosystem for your patients. Again, this is all the importance of the future of healthcare and creating a more sustainable healthcare system long term for everybody. And again, this goes back to health equity. This is about being scale superior care. We've kind of lost this. Again, we mentioned this is not about technology or innovation. This comes down to the patient. This comes down to the clinician. This comes down to health equity. Again, being able to create a better health ecosystem for everyone, not just one segment or two segments, but for everyone. If we can see more patients, if we can give better care to more patients, more efficient care to more patients, that's what our healthcare system is about. That's creating a more sustainable healthcare system. We can't just continue to spend more money and throw more money at it, but if we can create the efficiencies around this, again, bring the quality of life back to providers, why they got in, allow them to care better, why most care providers, if not all care providers, got into healthcare in the beginning to care for patients. Patients deserve it. Clinicians deserve it. We all deserve better. And I absolutely believe this is the silver bullet to bring in a lot of this promise forward. And Jake, obviously would love your thoughts here. I'm sure I left something out. I know there's the Kaiser study that we were talking about the other day. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so referring back to the ambient AI, I ran across a Kaiser study that said the reduced after hours charting and improved doctor satisfaction was significantly improved with the ambient AI and actually cut out documentation time by up to 30%, which is insane. And I mean, going back to the provider burnout, that helps tremendously.
You got it. And hopefully people are starting to see this and sort of read more articles around it. I think the biggest thing for us is, we're covering these 10 principles, but really important to understand, and I'm sure some of your teams are doing this, and I'm about to talk about my 9th principle, which goes to more the medical practices, but understanding where AI can help you today. And again, it's not about biting off the big bite here. It's about taking baby steps, little steps, understanding the strategy, setting your strategy. And again, I'll cover all this here in a moment, but beginning to open up and listen and say, hey, what can AI or where can AI help us? And looking for those little pieces and seeing some of these, oh my gosh, these other organizations, are having these little wins, whether it's, 90% or 60% less time on documentation or 30% less time on documentation, whatever it is, those are good wins for care providers and patients. So just think about what it means to you. So our 9th principle is practice level wins. So small organizations can realize value with minimal disruption. We realize they don't have a lot of resources and everybody's more resource constrained than ever before. But AI should be plug and play, not require a giant or a large IT staff. So for small organizations, even modest tools like automated messaging, translation, reduction in administrative burdens, and other improvements in patient satisfaction, that all comes with little tweaks with AI, little use cases with AI. It doesn't have to be multi-million dollar projects. Sometimes the biggest win is reducing just no-shows with smarter outreach, which means a lot. That's a lot of income for these practices, no matter what side of practice. I mean, I was there trying to look for some real simple use cases. Again, automated message translation, those really reduce the administrative burden and improve patient experience for practices of all size. But that's an easy win for a small medical practice. When I say small, anywhere from a 1 doctor practice to maybe a 15 doctor practice or larger. But again, it's really applicable to everybody because we all want better messaging. We all want better communication. We all want better patient satisfaction. We want reduced administrative burdens. So these are all little small projects that we all can do, and we all want, reduced no-shows. I hope we do, at least. And so moving into our 10th principle, create an AI adoption playbook for your organization. I've kind of gone through this, and we will continue. I'm sure we're going to publish the playbook here in the coming week, so you can look at it. We'll give you some URLs here in a minute, but we'll go through this and we'll publish all this out for you. But very importantly, is to think about an AI adoption playbook for your organization. And again, start off small, bite size, a couple of workflows, trust your data. You got to make sure that you have the right data on the input. But again, start somewhere. So adoption is cultural. I've done some thought leadership here. Give teams safe places to learn AI. There's no wrong answers. Just get out there and learn, study, create a playbook, create best practices maybe as a team together and share. What do you guys, hey, what's 1, what's 2, what's 3, what's 4? And maybe create a 10-point or 10 principle adoption playbook for your organization and have everybody get involved. And again, you want to create psychologically safe spaces for people. So there's no wrong answers. You want everybody to kind of get involved. Everybody do their, reading, do their learning. This just goes back to good leadership in general. But AI is really important. Again, it's not about data. This is a cultural input. This is a cultural strategy for everybody. AI is cultural. So again, look for the right education process. Bring the culture up with you. Trust in AI isn't built in a data center. It's built at the team level through safe experimentation. I think one of the examples Jake and I came across, and one of them actually on a radio show a couple months ago, was we hear about hospitals that are running AI hackathons or safe sandboxes so staff can experiment without risk. So again, tons of learning, tons of opportunity without the risk. And reward experimentation, even failures. Leaders should celebrate teams trying AI, even if they fail. And as we all know in healthcare, fail fast, but fail safe. And if we do that in these safe environments, these safe sandboxes, these hackathons, that's where we can learn very quickly. We can scale where we need to. We can do it safely. And when it doesn't work, we fail fast. So, Jake, I know you've got some safeguards recommended that you've helped create and collate. So go ahead and share that with my audience.
Yeah. So with the safe sandboxes, I was doing some research because as we talk about this AI world, it's changing rapidly. There's new data coming out every day. And so we always have to, research day by day. And in doing that research, I came across this article from the World Health Organization who gave some safeguard recommendations. And so firstly, establish guidelines on where AI can and can't be used. Secondly, use diverse data sets and rigorous testing on that AI. Set strong access controls and identity verification, and have explainable AI. So users must know why the model they're working with made a certain suggestion. Have transparent development and continuous dialogue with your team around AI. And lastly, continuously monitor and evaluate the outcomes that the AI is giving you.
Yeah, excellent points in those 6 safeguards. So, guidelines, diverse data sets, strong access controls. So also, I'm a member of CHAI, the Coalition for Health AI. They have a great documentation on a lot of this, on where to start, how to set up a safe AI environment for your organization. We're going to be publishing a lot more in the coming weeks, months, and years. But check out maybe what CHAI is doing if you want to set up a real, functional, scalable, and safe AI environment within your organization. Again, communication here. You said transparent development and continuous dialogue. That goes back to leadership and communication amongst the team. And then really monitoring, the evaluation outcomes. So, this is all, again, about creating the right ecosystem. Create your playbook, know what your guardrails are. Again, great places to start. But again, what's really important here is that you do start. Even researching is starting. That can be part of your playbook. Hey, let's go research and study for a couple of months and then begin to put down step by step for our organization. And it might take you a couple of years to get things built out, or a year to get things built out. And then you get, maybe access to some budgeting. Again, this doesn't have to be expensive. This is a good starting point of just learning, building out what AI does for your organization. If you build that business plan, that playbook, then your organization has something to invest in. Usually leaders want something to invest in. They want to understand all the different realms. So, kind of bringing this all back together again as we close here, reinforce, that AI, that helps comes from fixing the right problem, setting up the right guardrails, and ensuring the right culture for adoption. And as I mentioned, start small and measure and scale successes. So again, start small. Don't try to bite off the apple, bite the whole apple at one time. Little bites, move along. And we have some great thought leadership articles posted at justinbarnes.com and also growthperformance.org. We're being able to share some of this. You'll be able to see this playbook, I'm sure, at those 2 places here coming up. But also we have a lot of other things just in the philosophy of AI leadership and what you can do to create the right foster the right atmosphere and environment of innovation within your organization so you truly can advance with AI. So anything you want to say here in the closing seconds, Jake?
I think you've covered it. I'm excited to get this AI playbook out on both of those websites that you mentioned so we can, continuously update it as the AI changes.
You got it. And it's always going to change. And to Jake's point there, AI is an evolution. Research, but start somewhere and then build and scale. And always remember your initial data sources your data sources at all times are critically important to how good your AI is. Data is critically important there. Jake, thanks so much, my friend, as always. Great having you on air, my good friend.
Of course. Thank you.
And thanks to everyone for you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join the show. And also big thank you to all my listeners and supporters who voted us 2024 Podcast of the Year. We are so grateful. And please tune into this show as it broadcasts weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me on LinkedIn at Justin T. Barnes or track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag ThisJustinRadio so we can respond to your comments from the show. And please do reach out to us. We want to hear your comments if you have any regarding this show or any show. If you missed any of this episode or want to hear more, all of my shows are posted on YouTube, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Megaphone, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. And also, you can, as I mentioned before, you can check out some of the new content that we published in the Thought Leadership page on justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.